Why the heck is New Zealand so good at rugby?
I don't know. There's a lot of Kiwis in that country. So how can Kiwis be so good?
New Zealand's very small, and I mean, Australia is a lot bigger, so you think Australia would be like their next door neighbor that's kicking their butt, but apparently not, according to this video. We don't know anything about rugby or who's good, but according to this video, New Zealand's pretty dang good.
I mean, you'd think America would be the best, right? Because they're so good at sports, right?
No, they're not good at any of the sports that other countries like.
No, just their own sports.
Yep. Let's jump right into it, guys. Hopefully, this is a cool video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. And let us know more New Zealand stuff that you want us to check out in the comments. Here we go.
In September
Or
20,
rugby
learn
stuff.
about New
these
Zealand.
20 countries will
Yeah.
participate
It's a
in the
place
biggest
I'd always wanted to
tournament
go.
of one of the world's most popular sports.
Interesting. So those are rugby countries. Wait, can you go back to that map, quick?
It's most popular.
Georgia.
Yeah, I didn't know Georgia had rugby.
Japan.
I always thought it was football stuff.
It's very
Namibia?
interesting. This is a very random countries, I have to say. Interesting.
Sports. Rugby.
Rugby.
And you could make a strong argument that one of
That
these
seems like a bad idea to dive with your tongue
and you
out.
could make a strong
Yeah, you're
argument
gonna
that one of
bite
these
that
five teams
thing.
will win it. England invented the sport and has reached the World Cup finals 4 times. South Africa won the last World Cup in 2019.
Interesting.
Ireland is currently ranked #1 in the world, and France is hosting the tournament. Then there's New Zealand, who might win because, well, they're the most dominant team in the history of rugby, and arguably in
Really?
all of sports history.
Interesting.
Ooh. They got the music.
Since 1903,
I like the black
the New
uniforms.
Zealand All Blacks rugby team has
Makes it
only
more
lost
intense.
to 7 countries, but has a comfortable winning record against all of them. That's all the more impressive when you
Wow.
take into account that New Zealand today only has a population of 5 million people, a fraction of the other countries that have made a World
It's
Cup
the
final.
same as our state.
Very unique, obviously, for us to dominate the world because we are a very small part of it.
There is a fervent following of this team, almost religious at times.
So it begs the question, how did such a tiny country create such a dominant sports team? And can the New Zealand All Blacks stay on top?
New Zealand All Blacks.
I don't like the uniform anymore. The name's kind of weird.
That name would not fly in the U.S.
No, not at all.
Rugby combines the less placid features of American football and English soccer. You can run, pass, or kick the ball, while at the same time protecting yourself from the combined assault of the enemy.
Rugby is a fast, violent, and chaotic sport with many rules, but one basic premise: get the ball to your opponent's end of the field. The modern form of the game was invented at a school in Rugby, England, around 1820.
Huh.
At the
Oh.
time, England had a world-spanning empire, and it introduced rugby to its colonies, like South Africa and Australia in the 1860s, then New Zealand in the 1870s, where it became especially popular.
When rugby came to New Zealand, it came from origins in the UK where it was very much related to class structure. The elite schools played rugby in the UK.
Tony Johnson is a rugby expert, author, and TV broadcaster in New Zealand.
Oh, that's right on his mouth.
When it came
Yeah, I
to
didn't
New
know that's
Zealand,
how you
really
did it.
was the game for everyone. Didn't matter where you came from, what school you went to, you had a go at this game.
That included New Zealand's indigenous population, the Maori. They formed rugby teams almost immediately, and as early as the 1880s, a mostly Maori rugby team called the Natives played matches in other countries.
It was indeed a Maori person, Tom Ellison, who first came up with the idea of New Zealand wearing this black jersey.
Those jerseys are how New Zealand's national team came to be known as the All Blacks. And in 1905, they set
Now
off
I like
across
it
the
again.
ocean to play
That's
matches,
cool.
which, when played between countries, are called tests. The All Blacks surprised
Tests.
everyone by playing a faster, more expansive, and far more organized style of rugby than had ever been seen before. They played 35 tests, and they only lost once. A success
my
that not only
gosh.
changed rugby, but also how the world saw New Zealand.
New Zealand was
Can you imagine going from New Zealand all the way to the UK in 1905? How long that would take
True.
to play rugby?
Oh, people complain about jet lag after a 10-hour flight. Imagine a
3
boat ride
months,
that
however
takes
long.
so long. And then getting to still win 34 games out of 35.
It's insane. They're probably gone for like a year to play in that
Yeah.
rugby tournament or whatever it was.
starting to search for its own identity. This was the start of it. This was New Zealand. not so much a British subject anymore, but our own people.
After the tour, the All Blacks embodied that new national identity by fusing rugby with New Zealand culture, most famously by performing a Maori war dance called the haka before every test.
I think initially the haka was a greeting, also a challenge, often performed before a battle. Some people feel that the haka gives the All Blacks an unfair advantage. It's psychological.
In 1924, this All Blacks team won all 32 tests on an overseas tour, earning them the nickname the Invincibles. They raised New Zealand's expectations for the All Blacks from simply winning to dominating world rugby.
The superlative All Blacks rugby machine. They once more confirmed their absolute supremacy. World champion, the New Zealand War Machine, all set to join the other
Like the
nations who
New
fall
England
before the
Patriots
invincible
on
All Blacks.
steroids.
Yeah.
According to data gathered by ESPN, between 1900 and 1989, the All Blacks won 71% of their tests.
My God.
In 1987, they won the first ever Rugby World Cup. Then from 1990 to 2009, the All Blacks achieved a staggering 80% win rate.
Yeah,
When
wait,
did
they got
this,
improved?
They always turned things around by developing new strategies.
We're not the biggest people in the world. The South Africans produce these giants. England, a very sort of gym-trained muscularity about them. But what we do have is it's a combination of athleticism, skill, but also be willing to try something just a little bit out of the ordinary.
More than 100 years after it started playing rugby, this small country of a few million people was still producing the best rugby players in the world, year after year. So how does New Zealand do it? To make this video, we needed to do a ton of research, which meant going a lot of different places on the internet, which you may or may not
Sponsor?
have noticed has become kind
Sponsor.
of
If you want to
sketchy. A lot of
support this
people
guy's
out there are getting a
sponsor,
lot
you can
better
check
at
the
stealing
video.
information, stealing
Yeah,
your
link in
data.
the description and go
It
click on
is-
his link for NordVPN.
It helps him, I'm
Thanks.
sure.
Thanks for letting us react to the video.
It's our national game, so kids are playing it from when they're small, boys and girls.
Alice Soper is a rugby player and journalist.
You can be 6, so like 5 or 6, and they play something called Ripper Rugby, which is like a primer to the tackle where they have flags on their shorts.
Ripper Rugby teaches kids how to
Play
run, pass,
football?
and catch.
Ripper.
And it's how New Zealand maximizes the number of people who try rugby, thereby maximizing the pool of talent, entering a pipeline
Yeah,
that
that's
feeds the
the
All Blacks. By
development
the time
from being
kids
a
turn
child.
13, they're playing tackle rugby and join club and school teams. Many high schools, called colleges in New Zealand, field multiple teams, again, to keep as many playing as possible. But the best boys play on their school's top team, where the best of the best are increasingly identified as potential future All Blacks.
You could almost liken it to college sport in the United States.
You're watching Land Rover First 15 Rugby, where we show you
Well,
the
Land
stars
Rover.
of tomorrow today.
Oh boy.
Geez, they all go for it.
Then after graduating, the best are hired by teams to play in New Zealand's professional rugby league, Super Rugby. Only professional players that play in New Zealand are eligible to reach the top level, the All Blacks. It's a way for the team to ensure that there is a constant stream of new players that learn the game the New Zealand way.
They have to be all things, so they've got to be able to kick, they've got to be able to run, they've got to be able to tackle.
There's an expectation that they will play rugby the way the New Zealand public expect to see them play, which is this rather flamboyant style.
What a
Possibly
pass.
the greatest generation of All Blacks ever played from about 2010 to 2016.
All I know is the U.S. got a dub at one point.
Yeah, let's go. Hong Kong not doing too well. Japan, 100% win rate. They're actually
Wow.
better than the All Blacks.
That's true. Dang.
At time span, they won 90% of their
90%.
tests and never lost at home. Plus, they won 2 more World Cup championships.
Oh wait, that's against.
Several players
I
on the
see.
2015
That was
team
New
played
Zealand
at the same
against those
schools,
teams.
and they all played for one of the
Japan's
Super Rugby
better.
teams.
Whoa.
Or wait. Oh wait, no. The U.S.
Hong
is
Kong.
Hong Kong's better.
Wait, so Hong
Oh.
Kong won? I guess there's some weird British peeps there.
Hong Kong's the greatest team. They beat the All Blacks. And the U.S. got 50%, dude. We should feel
Yeah.
proud.
Not bad.
Dun, dun, dun,
Oh.
dun.
Time span, they won 90% of their tests and never lost at home. Plus, they won 2 more World Cup championships. Several players on the 2015 team played at the same schools, and they all played for one of 5 Super Rugby teams.
Probably the most well-known would be Richie McCaw. He was your typical kind of like hard
Richie
man,
McCaw?
absolutely no fear going into the contact.
Daniel Carter.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
It was like the Joe Montana of the All Blacks. He was a brilliant player, but he was a great strategist as well.
But while the top of the pipeline gets all the glory, New Zealand's real advantage over its much bigger rivals is at the bottom.
Other countries may have a similar kind of narrow trajectory through your schoolboys into your academies. They just don't have as many people funneling in at that beginning point.
It's quite a rugged sort of a game that suited the early pioneers of New Zealand, and these days it provides opportunity now for young people coming out of perhaps some of the more difficult socio-economic areas of New Zealand.
So the All Blacks dominate rugby because New Zealand transformed it into a game for everyone. But whether or not their domination continues is up for debate.
Huge World Cup upset. His men are too good for the All Blacks.
In 2019, the All Blacks failed to make the World Cup finals. Then in 21 and 22, they lost a stretch of 6 out of 8 tests, which pushed them to an all-time low ranking of 5th in the world. It led some to speculate that the All Blacks were in decline and question whether they could continue to dominate world rugby. Blame was placed on the COVID pandemic and the All Blacks coach Ian Foster. Most importantly, though, the losses forced New Zealanders to reflect on how their country's relationship with rugby is changing. A 2018 report found that the number of high school boys playing rugby was falling, while other sports were on the rise.
New Zealand has had phenomenal success in sports like rowing, basketball, but they've taken away athletes who once upon a time would have been All Blacks.
Like a lot of kind of male prevalent sports, they then start to take on that identity of like real heavily masculine spaces, which isn't necessarily what people want to be around. It's become out of step with younger New Zealanders.
And many worry that high school rugby is increasingly dominated by a few privileged schools that are making the game too professional at the expense of the rest. A 2013 investigation found that 5 schools in Auckland are estimated to have spent $400,000 on their rugby teams, while their competitors spent only $50,000. Over the next 5 years, the number of Auckland high school rugby teams fell from 225 to 181.
It's become very elitist, with the schools really focusing on the elite teams. What happens to all the players who aren't good enough to play for the first team?
Just a lot of pressure when you're 15. So we're starting to see people realize, oh, well, this isn't working out here. We need to be changing things.
The most immediate challenge keeping the All Blacks from total domination, though, is the rest of the world. Their rivals are getting better, particularly France and Ireland. Additionally, professional rugby leagues in Europe and Asia are getting very popular, and they're attracting a lot of New Zealand's players, making them ineligible to play for the All Blacks.
And even the lure of that black jersey for some players simply isn't enough when they think they can set themselves up for life.
In England, you've got a couple of Kiwis that are over there. If you look at the European teams, same thing there. Japan, currently run by a New Zealander. We put our people everywhere, and then we're surprised when they start to know our tricks.
So while the loss of these players may hurt the All Blacks' ability to win tests, it does ensure that New Zealanders will continue to remain at the cutting edge of rugby well into the future. Now, even though the popularity of boys rugby may be falling in New Zealand, the popularity of women's rugby there is exploding, and the women's All Blacks team is number 2 in the world. Thanks again for watching episode 3. This was a fun one.
All right, rugby. We still don't know much about it, but it's interesting
how good New Zealand was, and it's pretty insane.
They got a system. They have it all figured out, but their system's falling apart. What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
The last few years, oh no.
Hong Kong's undefeated against them.
It's Jover.
It's Jover, dude. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let us know some more good rugby videos we should check out. There might be some cool like plays or stuff like that you can check out. Leave some stuff down in the comments below. That's what we need more than anything in this world.
Please, something, please.
See you in the next one. Bye.